Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. But today, I have my guy in the building, T Ward. What's going on with you, fam?
What's up with you? What's up, Fight fam?
Nothing, man. Chilling. All right, man. So, have never seen a network and promotional company that is going out of business do so much. I feel you, Tunnel. We're going to talk about that, bro. We're going to talk about that for sure. So where do we start off? I want to start off, T, talking about the fact that the YouTube community has come together. I know probably a lot of people have had the opportunity to see that Marty and I, and the pragmatic one, Mr. Pragmatic, we all broke bread together yesterday. Marty is in Atlanta. Pragmatic lives in Atlanta. And we connected, man, and shared stories, shared backgrounds, shared opportunities. And that's what it's all about, man. Coming together, connecting, building a community, building the unity. And it's really cool, man, to see that stuff happen, bro.
Absolutely.
So I was excited to meet Marty and have those conversations. So T, what's your thoughts on that?
Man, I thought it was super dope when I saw the picture, and I do like the fact that not only did you post about it, Marty posted about it on his channel, so I got to interact with both pieces of content. And I was happy to see that, man. Y'all sat down and spent some time. It wasn't just like a photo op. It was like, you know what I'm saying, the YouTube box community, aka the YTBC, coming together. And I like to call it the new YTBC because you have your traditional guys that have been around for years and they have a circle even outside of the LDBC. And then you have this new group of content creators, basically under 10,000 subs, that are all binding together instead of competing with each other. We're combining and working together and building a strong community, because that helps the subscribers find everything that they need. And all of us don't agree on everything, but we all have a unique perspective and opinion. And I love to see that you guys got an opportunity to come together and just break bread and share thoughts and meeting of the mind, so to speak. I thought it was dope.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully I get a chance to connect with Marty again before he leaves. It was really good interaction. Marty's a good dude. Pragmatic, man, is a really good dude, man. Shared a lot of background and knowledge about some of his experiences and things like that, man, that I thought was pretty dope. So I was very happy to get the opportunity to connect with those guys.
That's
So I don't know if you have the opportunity to see it yet, T, but we did an interview with David Benavidez this week. And it was interesting. So just to give a little bit of the background on it. So we connected with David Benavidez through his publicist. Really, really nice woman who at some point I would like to get on our channel, because not only does she handle publicity for fighters, but she's also someone who manages fighters as well. So she's similar to Marty. And so nice young lady. We connected with David Benavidez, and it was supposed to be Jason and I that did that interview. And we had some technical issues, I guess, and Jason didn't get in. So, you know, I had about 10 to 15 minutes to change up my game plan in terms of how we were going to interview him, or how I was going to interview him, because we had already kind of walked through what the process and how it was going to look. And so, man, it was an interesting interview. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting about David, because my concern with David was the fact that he had too much hatred for Caleb Plant. And you know how that is, T. You know, you become blinded by your hatred. And, you know, I was fearful that, you know, he would have too much of that in his heart going into that fight, and that was going to be his downfall. But, you know, as I talked to David is very calm. I mean, throughout that entire interview, and there's portions of that interview that, of course, was not shared just because I had to chop it up because some of the issues that we had. But overall, David was just incredibly calm about that entire fight, that entire situation. I thought it was interesting to see how calm he was, and that gave me confidence that he's going to go into that fight with the right mindset and have the ability to, you know, carry out whatever game plan that they come up with, and is not going to be blinded by his emotions.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I share similar concerns that possibly David might be a little overzealous he might have a little bit too much emotion going in. But I think that was just for the press conference. He's got a fight to sell. So, and Caleb's doing his part to agitate David, but by the same token, I think come fight night, they both have been in big fights. They both have been world champions. I think David's going to come in rocking and ready, and it's not going to be an issue as far as his demeanor, his energy level, and he's not the one who needs to worry about too much emotion, to be honest, because he has a gas tank. It's really Caleb. So I thought it was just cool that he played up at the press conference, and I think that come fight night, he gonna bring the pain.
He alluded to that too.
I ain't picking the winner yet.
What's that? I got David. I've said it on multiple occasions that I think he's going to win that fight.
I gotta get these videos off, so I can't predict yet.
I got you. So no, man. He actually mentioned that during the interview, bro. He mentioned that hey, a part of this is like WWE. You gotta like people like to see the energy, the good guy, the bad guy, stuff like that. Now, do I believe that his animosity towards Caleb Plant is real? Absolutely. He does not like Caleb Plant. But I think the press conference was the opportunity to show the dislike, the disdain for Caleb Plant. But I think at the same time, you know how WWE is like taking your personality and turning the volume way up. That's, I think, what he was doing as a part of that press conference. Really turning that way up. We know that the animosity is real. We saw them get into a confrontation before. We saw the family members get into a fight and have a scuffle. We saw the photographers get into a scuffle. So I think definitely that animosity is real.
Oh, for sure. It's I can see there's some natural disdain for each other. I don't think it's enough to make them too emotional to be able to perform on a professional level. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I think David's going to be ready, man. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight because they both bring something that the other offsets pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to have the better game plan, who's going to have the better plan B, actually, because plan A is going to work for both guys. But who's going to have that plan B that offsets it? And I thought it was a super dope interview with David. He seemed like such a humble dude. You forget how young he is because sometimes he comes off like an older guy,
Right.
And it was really cool to see him. He seemed super relaxed. So, man, shout out to y'all for pulling in a really great interview. Can't wait to see more. Y'all had Tim Witherspoon as well. I'm sure that's on your target list. But, yeah, it was nice to see all those different changes this week.
Yeah. So just for awareness, we've been trying to get into contact with Plant. I thought I had tracked down his publicist, found out that was no longer his publicist. Exchanged some messages back and forth with his old publicist, but definitely going to try to continue to reach out to Caleb Plant. Hopefully we can get him on. We'll see if that's if we're good, if we're able to do that. And then another thing that I was I've been working on is Mitch Blood Green. So Mitch Blood Green is interested in telling his side of what happened in that infamous Mike Tyson street fight. I've always been curious to hear the other side of that as well. So I'm trying to get Mitch Blood Green on to talk a little bit about that. I think that would be an amazing story to hear. So more to come on that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next topic, man. And that next topic for me, T, is Errol Spence. And I just feel like we're at a stage that a lot of people don't want to admit this, but I just feel like Spence is clearly and obviously the cash cow in and around 147 pounds. We continue to hear individuals call out Errol Spence, the latest of which was Conor Benn. Now, as far as I know, there's been no connection between Conor Benn and Errol Spence. I've heard Conor Benn mention something about or allude to that, Errol Spence had been mentioning his name or mentioning him or something like that. I do know that Errol mentioned Michelle Rivera, kind of got on Michelle Rivera in terms of being on performance-enhancing drugs. But I have not heard him mention anything about Conor Benn prior to Conor Benn making the comments that he wanted to get him in the ring. We know that Tim Tszyu mentioned Errol Spence's name probably about a week or so ago. So every time I turn around, somebody has Errol Spence's name in his mouth. So it's my opinion that these guys understand that in and around that weight class, he's the guy that you need to get into the ring with to make the most money. Whether or not anyone wants to admit that, it's true. It's absolutely true at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I tend to agree with you. He's the one. And I think the title of your video that you put out was basically clout chasing. And I think I saw a graphic about it too. You know, the little runner chasing the clout, right? It is clout chasing if you're actually injecting yourself into a conversation that had nothing to do with you. For example, Conor Benn specifically, right? So what Errol Spence said about Michelle Rivera was actually, hey, they swept everybody else's stuff under the rug. Why don't y'all just let this go too? He was kind of speaking, advocating for Michelle Rivera to get a lighter charge or lighter punishment because they gave 6 months to Canelo Alvarez, which is what he's referring to, and you're looking at 9 months for Michelle Rivera, which would put him back in September. So if Conor Benn was to pay attention to what was being said, he's actually saying, hey, man, I'm trying to let y'all make it instead of all that other stuff that he's trying to come with. And then they had that back and forth. As far as Tim Tszyu, Errol was kind of just rooting, you know, kind of saying like, hey, he picked Tony. It's a good bet because it's a lucrative bet. I think he's like a significant underdog, and Errol bets on fights. So he's taking the underdog. So if you really know anything about the other fighters that are in the profession with you, then you'll understand like, hey, man, this wasn't nothing personal. He's trying to win some money on a long shot. How can you be mad at that? You know what I'm saying? And they're both Americans. So why are you upset that there's some American pride going on? You know, weren't you probably rooting for George Kambosos? What would be the difference? You get what I'm saying? So these dudes are looking for any way to get in and attach themselves to Errol's name, even if it's not a perfect fit.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Tim Tszyu is that he didn't even address the question. The question about how did he feel relative to Errol Spence picking and making a bet for Tony Harrison, he did not answer that question. He went right into his desire to face Errol Spence in the event that he gets past Tony Harrison and Jermell Charlo. And my thought was, well, hold up. The guy's not asking you anything about Errol Spence. I mean, even if you do get the opportunity to fight Spence, it's way on down the line, and it's a long shot. So clearly he just wants to tie his name to Errol Spence's name. Now, whether that's because he believes that he'll really get the opportunity to fight him in his heart, or it's an opportunity to just link Errol Spence to his name because that helps to bolster names. I call it the Bob Arum school of promoting. You take the most popular fighter in and around the weight class, and you take the fighter that you're promoting and you tie your fighter to him, right? Regardless. And that's how you continue to promote your fighter. Now, a lot of people will push back on me and say, no, that's not true relative to Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao did have some of his own, I would say, fanfare. He had his own fans. I mean, he was a name. But Pacquiao went to the another level when he got tied to Floyd Mayweather. And I believe that a lot of the promoting strategy relative to Bob Arum and Top Rank was to tie his name to Floyd Mayweather. So, you know, that's the new promoting technique, and you know, that's what these guys are doing with Errol Spence.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Definitely. The Bob Arum formula. Hey, find the guy that's popping in your division or at or around your division and tie yourself to that person as soon as possible. What's going to happen is you're going to start to receive buzz. People are going to start saying your name because they're saying that person's name. You're going to jump into the algorithm real quick that way. Pretty smart strategy. We're going to give Bob credit, even though a lot of people figured that out. You need a dancing partner. You need a nemesis. In wrestling, what's the thing that puts the best wrestlers at the top of the industry? It's the guys who have a nemesis. The Rock needed Stone Cold, etc. Hulk Hogan needed Andre the Giant, so on and so forth. Boxing has been using that formula for even longer because they've been around longer. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of people really don't pay attention to. That's what a lot of these fighters do. I just need to find who I could attach my name to. Everybody trying to attach their name to Tank Davis as well, for the exact same thing. If people are talking about Tank, they talking about me because I'm calling him out every 5 minutes. Ryan Garcia talked this one right to a beat up.
Yep. Think about Terence Crawford. How big was Terence Crawford before people thought that he was going up to 147 pounds and start tying him to Errol Spence?
Nobody knew.
Nobody was talking about Terence Crawford. Yeah, pound for pound. Yeah, he was in a lot of people's. But the buzz around Terence Crawford didn't grow until his name got tied to Errol Spence. Now his name is synonymous. If he goes onto his Twitter, people are asking him about Errol Spence. If Errol Spence is anywhere, they're asking him about Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford popularity is directly tied to Errol Spence, and he should be thanking that man because that man has brought him along. That's the reason why I've always been like, there's no way that he can get a 50-50 split or anything even close to that, because at the end of the day, one guy's popularity is built off of his promoter and being smart about the way that they marketed him based off of his background and where he's from. The other guy just tied his name to him and has gotten popular because of it. So, no disrespect to Terence Crawford or any of his fans, because they all get mad when you say anything about their baby Terence. But he is not at that level at this time. And, that's what a lot of people are doing. They're tying their name to Errol Spence. And, I mean, to your point, it is smart because Terence Crawford has probably gotten a few paydays because of it.
No, I agree with that. Let's switch this hat up, folks. Get y'all a little bit of OG style. No, I agree with you 100%, man. That's definitely been the formula for Bud. Attached to Errol, and his popularity has grown since that fight became a real thing. Think about this. Errol Spence sold out a stadium in his home state, basically 40K. Well, he didn't sell it out, but he put 40K in there with a gentleman who doesn't even speak English. Just read some of your Dennis Ugas tweets. This dude don't even tweet in English. Right. So this tells you what you need to know. And he was able to draw in a crowd and then get over 200,000 people to purchase the pay-per-view to see him. And that undercard wasn't even good. It had Stanionis on there. I think Jamal James was on there, something like that. It wasn't even a great undercard. So you have to think about when you have a fighter that's drawn like that. Of course, if you're in his weight class, you attach yourself to him. And that's exactly what's happening with Spence. It was with Deontay Wilder. You just had to say you want to fight Wilder. You didn't even have to actually fight him. You just needed your name and his name to come up in the headline, and all of a sudden people start talking about you.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, we know who the cash cow is in and around that weight class. It's Errol Spence. We'll see what ends up happening with Errol Spence moving forward. I know it's probably going to be Keith Thurman. I'll be excited just to hear them announce the fight because, quite frankly, I'm tired of waiting to hear it. We know that the PBC, they have a specific order in which they announce fights, and so we'll see when that gets announced. I want to transition to something very quickly, and I know this is kind of on the fly, but Tunnel Vision actually brought it up as soon as he came into the chat, and it's interesting. I had a conversation with a gentleman who will remain nameless, but he is tied to, you know what? I don't want to say who he's tied to either. I'm just going to say he's someone he has deep roots in boxing. Let's say that. Okay. And this gentleman, we were talking about just the PBC and some of the comments that have been made about the PBC. And, recently I was in Ohio and I had a conversation with someone while I was on the rental car bus heading to back to the airport. And the PBC is making all of the big fights, dude. Now, I actually had this conversation with Marty yesterday, too. The PBC is making all the big fights. They have been making all the big fights for a while. Now, is the PBC perfect? No. Is the PBC blameless? No. But they're making the big fights. And then you get these rumors about the PBC being broken. They all stem from either the restructure of Paramount and the fact that people believe that somehow boxing would be cut from Paramount, or a situation that happens in any business, T. Now, I know you also have a business background. When you are in a fiscal year and you get towards your fourth quarter, everybody is hustling to hit their final numbers, right? We're trying to close out the year and hit the numbers that we promised to all of our stakeholders and stock owners. And so what'll end up happening is budgets get slashed. I can tell you from my perspective, just working in, corporate America for a while, capital plans get slashed. Those open head counts that you said you were going to hire, they won't get hired this year, all to target hitting a specific P&L number and cash flow number. So I'm pretty sure that some of that information may have gotten out in terms of their budget. I know Adrian Broner grabbed onto that and ran with it. Oh, they ain't got no money. There's no budget. They ain't got no money over there. Yeah, you will slash a budget toward the end of the year to hit a specific operating income. And we know that Paramount has some issues with their DTC business. So, of course, they're looking across the entire portfolio of their businesses for opportunities to cut costs in order to hit a number. So I don't think people truly understand what happens within a business. And Adrian Broner might have gotten the opportunity to grab onto something and just kind of ran with it. And now you have this narrative out there about the PBC that's just not simply, it's just simply not true. So what's your thoughts on that?
No, I've been hearing this narrative with PBC for several years. And the funny thing about it is every year it's confirmation bias. I talked about this on one of my live streams a few days ago. Confirmation bias. All you need is one thing to confirm what you already want to be true versus
Right.
actually investigating and finding out how true that thing is going to be. So the primary thing that people look at is, oh, PBC's not putting on as many fights as they used to, where there's a couple of different things that changed in their business model over the last few years. When they first started, Al Heyman was spending the money that was invested to purchase TV time up front. What that did is allow those networks to show his shows, and they were paid up front rather than having to get advertisers. So the ratings didn't matter. They were paid for those slots already. The ratings only mattered to PBC to determine, should we continue to invest money buying these TV slots on Spike and Fox Sports regular TV and NBC or whatever. So their business model changed when they figured out, hey, people are watching, but not enough for us to invest. We need to start putting on shows like the regular outfits, and we'll actually start to turn a better profit versus spending money just to be visible. So they did what everybody's saying BLK did, made a splash. PBC did that, but look at how long they're lasting, and they put on several fights. Keith and Danny were on regular TV. So what does that tell you? Something was working. It just wasn't making the profit that they wanted. So they shifted to a pay-per-view and Showtime subscription model, and then the Fox model, which allowed them to get injections of income to pay for these events versus paying out of pocket. So now you start to go back into the black. So those numbers that are floating around and people saying they've burned all this money, no, they spent the money. You could look at it as the advertising budget. This was the initial investment to get the company to a bit of notoriety. And now from here, we're going to do events that cost money. So yes, they're going to hit you with a pay-per-view every 2 months, but they're going to put their best fighters in those pay-per-views. They're not going to put Loma versus Jermaine Ortiz, or they're not going to put Devin Haney in the pay-per-view. They're putting your Errol Spence, your Gervonta Davis, your Deontay Wilder, the box office people. That's why you're paying for pay-per-views, because you're getting the premium fighters. You're not getting the run-of-the-mill guys. So to me, I think that the business model is working since they made that adjustment.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. Let me pause here very quickly. We got 60 people in the building, 25 likes. If you get the opportunity, please hit the like button. Also, look at that little icon in the lower right-hand corner. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We are dropping content all the time. And make sure that you subscribe to the Mic Check podcast as well. That's my boy T Ward here. That channel is like a sister channel to ours. Also, I got to give some love to our sponsors, Rock Dog Interactive and Black Father Figures. Black Father Figures, they have a cruise coming up toward the end of the year. More information on that. The league, I'm actually going to end up having him on probably one of these days and give him the opportunity to speak to the cruise and everything that's going on with the cruise, man. I mean, that's going to be an incredible time for Black Fathers, for us to come together and celebrate Black Fathers. So be on the lookout for that. Got to get my man, the League of Legacy, in the building. T, you good, man? Sound like you had some technical issues there, bro. You there?
Yeah, I'm charging up the laptop. We're good.
Okay, we're good. We're good. So Tio turn his camera back on soon. So yeah, man. As far as the PBC is concerned, man, these guys are putting on the best fights. There's always been this narrative, and we know why the narrative is out there. It's because it's Al Heyman, and Al Heyman is a guy that I respect. But I also respect all of these guys. I respect Bob Arm. I respect Bob. I don't believe most of the stuff that comes out of Bob's mouth, but I respect Bob. I respect Oscar. I don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth, but I respect Oscar. So all these guys I respect, but I have I have a lot of respect for Al Heyman and everything that he's been able to accomplish and some of the things he's done with Floyd Mayweather and all of these fighters up under the PBC umbrella. When you look at the biggest stars in the sport right now, who are they associated with? Even Canelo, to some extent, has been associated with the PBC because he's been on some of their cards. Now, not to say that his popularity stems from the PBC, but he's been associated with them. Tank Davis, one of the biggest stars in the sport. Errol Spence, one of the biggest stars in the sport. Jamel Charlo's one of the biggest stars in the sport. So, you know, a lot of these guys are attached to the PBC. These guys know how to market their fighters and make stars out of them.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. And there's a comment I want to address since it's a part of what you're saying. How can you remain in business with your cash only fighting, with your cash cow only fighting once a year? So that's the thing. They have multiple cash bringing fighters. If they fight once or twice a year, that means that you're going to put on 3 or more pay-per-views per year with your biggest and brightest stars. You don't have to fight them all year. The fighters lose in that scenario, not the company. And I think people are tying fighter revenue to company success. I don't need to pay all my studs 2 or 3 times a year if people are going to pay for pay-per-views to see them once or twice a year. I don't need to pay them that many times, because then that starts to actually hurt me a little bit, because their numbers are going to continue to climb too fast. As a business, you want to find ways to kind of keep that level. You kind of want to put a cap on salaries to some degree as a business. Their job at PBC and Al Heyman is not to necessarily look out for those fighters becoming mega millionaires. Their idea is to keep their company running first. And if the fighters happen to be very successful financially, then hey, that's a byproduct of my company being successful. I think that that's the perspective that gets lost in the shuffle.
Exactly, man. Let me pause right here too to give our members a shout out, man. The League of Legacy is in the building. Jay Reddy is in the building. As you guys can see, those stars next to them mean that they're members of the channel. So we appreciate you guys, man. Special salute to you guys for supporting us in the way that you do. All right, man. Let's change topics, bro. I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Oscar De La Hoya. So,
like Twitter.
There's some things that I heard about why the fight was delayed. I actually heard that the fight was delayed because of some financial issues between Oscar De La Hoya and DAZN. Was really the main holdup of the fight and didn't really have anything to do with the PBC or Tank Davis. But it's interesting that Oscar went on his Twitter, I think it was, or his Instagram. I don't know which one it was. And I think it was his Instagram. I follow him on one of them. And he said, hey, you guys wanted this fight. Well, I made it. And I think Tank Davis responded by saying Oscar needs to lay off that shit. I think it's interesting that Oscar made that comment. I think Oscar honestly was forced to make this fight. And the reason why I think he was forced to make this fight, and the credit's going to go to Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia really wanted this fight. I think Garcia forced this fight. And of course, this fight does not happen unless Al Heyman and the PBC wants this fight to happen, as well as Tank Davis. Tank Davis wanted this fight. So of course, this fight was made. Now, interestingly enough, tying this into our last topic, T, apparently all the major fights don't get done because of the PBC yet. We saw Tyson Fury versus Gervonta Davis. We're now seeing Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. We're now seeing Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. What other fights have we seen from the PBC? They've made multiple fights. They had fights with Canelo. What fight did they make with Canelo? Was it
with
Caleb did they make Plant. A fight? Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. So interestingly enough,
PBC. And Maypac was PBC. Maypac and Maypac, both of those.
Oh yeah. Were PBC. Exactly. So there's a history of the PBC making fights across different organizations, entities, fighters. Yet somehow, every time something does not occur, it's the PBC fault. Make it make sense. I just don't get it. But anyway, Oscar De La Hoya is sitting up here taking all the credit for this fight materializing. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's like Oscar is almost like this promoter that really is like, he's almost like an insta thought, you know, a guy that's just looking for clicks and likes and attention. It's kind of how I feel about Oscar De La Hoya. What are your thoughts on Oscar actually taking full credit for this fight being made and not even mentioning his own fighter, the other fighter, or the other promotional entity that had to come to the table in order to make this fight?
So Oscar is very in the pick me headspace. Hey, it's me, guys. Look, because everybody knows the fact is, if Al Heyman didn't want that fight and Steven Espinoza didn't want that fight, wouldn't be no fight. So
Right.
Oscar had very little power. DAZN was pressuring him, and he had to deliver this fight, and that's why it was such a hard fought decision to we need the rematch if it's called on our network. That was part of it. That was the zone applying pressure. That's why it was such a major sticking point. And Showtime and PBC was just like, you know what? No big deal, man. We can make that happen. We're gonna, negotiate whatever terms or what have you. Oscar is the guy who just he wants credit. It's like, look at that. I tied my shoes. You see that? I tied those shoes and I tied his shoes, and nobody's shoes would be tied if it wasn't for me. I'm the king of
Right.
tying shoes. That's kind of what he's saying. And it's like, dude, this is the most idiotic thing ever that you're talking about. Nobody cares really who got the fight across the finish line as long as they both get in the ring on April 22nd. I don't care who pulled all the strings to make the fight happen, to be honest, because the only ones who are going to really care is who's going to make the most money off the fight, which for the first fight, if there is even a second fight, for the first one at a minimum, Showtime and PBC and Tank Davis are going to make the most money. So what does it matter who got the fight across the finish line? So Oscar, if that's his way of staying relevant, the problem that I have with it is he's not getting his other fighters shine in the process. He should be talking about Jaime Munguia, Zerto got a fight coming up. Anytime you're talking about Tank and Ryan, you should be talking about what else you have in the shoot at or around the same time.
He doesn't have shit in
Virgil's
the
coming
shoot.
up the week after. He's got Virgil coming up after that. But I'm saying all his fighters are about to fight in the near
Yeah.
future except Munguia. So you should be using these opportunities as a springboard because he's not. I think it's just cap. It's just him just talking, just looking for fame to put next to his name attached to somebody else.
Zerto, Jaime Munguia, they're not even worth mentioning. I had forgotten about Virgil Ortiz. Now, Virgil's my guy. A lot of people know I like Virgil Ortiz. I think he's underrated, but I
No
don't think
doubt.
Oscar has anything else in terms of his organization that's even worth mentioning. And if Ryan Garcia loses, which I believe he's going to lose, I think he's going to be hurting for star fighters. I don't know how much longer he's going to be in business. And I want to actually highlight something else. Molly Mall also mentioned Fulton versus Anui. So
Yeah.
that's another fight that's being made across PBC. I just, it's just so crazy to me, man, that some of these narratives, it's just amazing to me, these narratives. See, I truly, they're fucking mind boggling, bro. Like some of the stuff that's being said.
They're rooted in confirmation bias. You just need one little thing to confirm. I told you that was it. I told you that's what was going on. Look at this one thing. And it's like, dude, that's the biggest coincidence ever. Like the worst thing that could have happened for the PBC was when they couldn't get that Bud fight done, they didn't have a contingency plan for the second half of last year. In my opinion, I don't think that had anything to do with budget. It was a matter of losing venue dates. They lost venue dates, and that really messed their entire schedule up because now their stars are going into vacation mode. We got too close to Christmas, and them dudes was like, dude, I ain't already in camp. I ain't going to camp. So you got your B-list fighters filling out your schedule for the rest of the year because after PBC was supposedly broke for the rest of the year, Wilder fought, and then you had like 4 other PBC Showtime cards that weren't Showbox. They were actually PBC cards that went on for the rest of the year from November through the end of December. So in my opinion, that's 2 per month. All this stuff that they're talking about just doesn't make sense. It's just people looking for ways to push a narrative, and I'm just over it.
Man, the League of Legacy just made a interesting question, or put an interesting question in the chat. I have a question. If you remove PBC fights from the last 2 years, how would the boxing landscape look right now?
Trash.
Wow. Exactly. That's exactly what it would be. Absolute trash. And that's the interesting part about how folks are criticizing the PBC, how the way that we've seen narratives put out there from the likes of Max Kellerman and others, Rick Glacier and all those guys, where they're talking about things and trying to diminish what they are accomplishing over there, man. It's a hit job. It's a public hit job on these guys, and it's amazing that people don't see through that. And to your point, they just really want to they want to paint a narrative because it benefits them either financially or otherwise.
Yeah. So one piece I want to put on back into that is similar to what you're talking about. So Deontay Wilder has been one of the biggest faces and stars in boxing over the last 5 years. Even in 2 losses to Tyson Fury, he's still he's going to bring bodies in the building, even if the pay-per-view doesn't sell without the right dance partner. That being said, Wilder's over in Saudi. He's at the Jake Paul fight. And they actually did a little interview with him leading up to one of the fights. And he's seeking fights over there because it's lucrative. Now, he's also probably going to get in the promotional side. It sounds like he's setting up some opportunities to work with fighters when he officially retires. So he's starting to make certain moves, right? Everybody's using these opportunities that he's trying to create for his second career or third career, however you look at it, as him deciding PBC is not taking care of him. And that just doesn't add up to me. This dude is rich. You can see his wealth. He doesn't wear a whole bunch of crazy jewelry, but you could tell Deontay is wealthy. He's always on vacation. His family is always doing good. He's talked about the opportunity to take care of his daughter who's ill, all those different things.
Absolutely.
He's not complaining about money. He's talking about the boxer landscape in general, but these people are using these storylines to get clicks, get newspaper views, you know what I'm saying? But in reality, it's not even rooted in the truth. It's just rooted in an opinion. It looks like the PBC isn't paying their fighters because these guys are talking about money. Maybe they're looking at their friends and buddies at a lower tier and realizing these guys aren't getting the opportunities to make as much as me. So it's a little bit harder for them because the structure of boxing, not the PBC, not Top Rank, not so-and-so, the structure of boxing isn't exactly fighter friendly if you're not a star. That's really the story that should be told.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder has always wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, right? And I think that's what he's trying to do for his fellow fighters that might be at a lower level. That started around the time of To This Day, right? He's always wanted to be that voice. And I do believe you're right that he wants to continue to help fighters beyond the ring once he decides to hang them up. So I've listened to a lot of the comments made by Deontay Wilder. None of them I took as the PBC are not paying fighters. When I looked at it, I thought he was talking about in general. Even when you take the comments from Adrian Broner, I don't recall Adrian Broner specifically saying that people are not getting paid. And again, just being in this thing now for a little bit, T. I've been getting the opportunity to get a little bit of inside information that I've never had before, and there are some stuff that was shared with me. I'm talking about, like screenshots of information where I would tell you that Adrian Broner was taken care of. So with that being said, Adrian Broner simply, I love AB. I like the way he's changing his life. I like his love for other fighters, but I just feel like Adrian Broner simply does not want to fight anybody that has any pulse, because he's talking about fighting Godzilla. I mean, who the hell was he fighting prior to who was Adrian Broner's last fight? I don't even recall.
Was it Figueroa? Is that no? Was it Figueroa?
I can't remember, man, but certainly I'm actually going to look it up.
Tough competition.
Let me see. Adrian, I bet somebody in the chat already knows and probably has already dropped it. But at the end of the day, let's look at his. Santiago was his last one in 2020. Then Pacquiao, then Vargas, then Garcia. So tell me, which one of these guys? Granados was before that, and then Theophane was before that. Tell me which one of these guys sound like Godzilla.
Pacquiao, I guess.
Yeah, Pacquiao's got to be, but Pacquiao was 40. Pacquiao was 40. This was 2019. Pacquiao was born in 1978, so Pacquiao was 40, 41.
Yeah.
So help me understand the Godzilla that he fighting. Man, people, to your point, they find any tidbit. What was the term that you use? Something
Confirmation
bias.
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. They're using confirmation bias in order to pick out one little aspect of something that confirms what it was that they wanted to believe anyway. Whether it actually confirms it or not, they use that bit of information to try to paint a narrative that they want out there and that they want to believe. And that's what they do, man. And, you know, at the end of the day, man, that shit's not going to work, man. The PBC is going to keep on riding. Tunnel Vision believed that a new huge deal will be announced. I hope Tunnel Vision is right, because that's what's good for the sport and that's what's good for boxing.
I think PBC is going to need to have a big year. I don't expect a deal of any major magnitude to be announced between Showtime and PBC or Paramount and PBC until 2024, because PBC's doing what they're doing right now for a reason. I've mentioned this several times. There's a local show basis on, if you look at the PBC broadcast, Premier Boxing Champions, not the show box, it's local cards. It's dudes that are from in and around the area of the arena within a couple of hours, where they're already local based. They don't have to shift their camps. Those dudes are getting together and having fights at these different locations. Watch the Vegas card for Tank and Ryan. Watch the undercard. It's going to be a lot of dudes from California and close by that are pretty much in driving distance, where they could pack the stadium with local following. They're going to do that all year to bump up the numbers. They're looking at it like, hey, we don't want to give Showtime or Paramount any reason to decide to cut us. So we're going to build shows that are going to sell. And then it's also going to be filled with rock stars, dudes that really move the needle for us. And we're going to load some of these cards up with potential fights. Like they're talking about Boots and Big Charlo on the same card. That's going to build up a big following, because a lot of people like either one of those guys in this Charlo's return to the ring. So when you get to 2024, PBC is going to have a banner 2023 to say, look, we had a bunch of crazy pay-per-views. We had crazy attendance for our events. And guess what? We did it on budget. We came in at a really good profit. I think that's going to be a huge difference. And there's a little bit of trim in the fat. This is a low-key move that I think actually benefits them versus hurts them. You had Ortiz versus Ruiz last year, which didn't do anything, right? Guess who's not fighting? Ortiz is basically out in the wind, and Ruiz has been released from his contract because they're not making money off of Ruiz. He could still fight Wilder without being a PBC fighter, right? So they're trimming the fat of guys that aren't really – they let Adrian Broner walk. This is all strategic. If people would sit back and pay attention, now I'm using confirmation bias the other way. I'm taking things that look like really smart business moves and saying, see, they ain't going out of business. They just tighten up the ship. It works both ways, but nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, I feel like PBC's new model is, I think the way that they have structured themselves, they're probably always making a profit, because they are driving the fact that you're going to get paid based off of the amount of asses you put in seats, period. And so because their business model is basically predicated on you putting asses in seats, more than likely they're hitting their target and they're always profitable. Those are my thoughts. I think that's the reason why they're operating in the manner that they're operating in. So, and I think their fighters understand, the model. I think all those guys over there trust Al Haymon. I haven't heard any of those fighters really talk down on Al Haymon. And Al Haymon's too damn smart to be sitting around there and just losing money on fights. I don't believe that shit's happening at all. So those are my thoughts on that.
That ain't it. No, absolutely not. Brenda's back.
Brenda, what's going on? Brenda, I've missed you. I've missed you so much. I was actually thinking about emailing you the other day, Brenda. You got to get back in the comment sections. It ain't the same without you.
We on the pay. Hey, I just got my check. Wait, no, it'd be here on the 1st. Thank you, Al Haymon.
I wish I was on a payroll, but unfortunately I am not. But no, I would never want to be on the payroll for any boxing entity at all, because I want my opinions to be pure. So I want the ability to criticize whoever I want to criticize and not be worrying about a check. So it is what it is. Man, let's talk about some more clout chasing, bro. Danny Garcia wants a rematch with Errol Spence. Actually, I won't say that this is clout chasing, because I actually think Danny does want that fight, because I think he wants the money. But it's interesting that he wants to fight. God, who was it? He wants to fight Laura at a catchweight for his 160-pound title.
Yeah,
but he doesn't want none of Mal. He doesn't want any of Fundora. Hasn't mentioned Jermell, but does want Errol. So he's very selective in who he wants to fight. T, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's not clout chasing because, like you said, he's actually trying to get the bag. He's not trying to get popular off of this. He's trying to get the best financial opportunity, or he gets to add that multi-division champion because he was he got a belt at 40. He got a couple belts at 40. He got a belt twice at 40, 47, and then if he can go up to 60 and get Lara at that 157 catch weight for his belt, he'll be a 3 division champion, and that kind of starts to bump up his Hall of Fame resume. Remember, he's at that age where now he's thinking about after boxing. Um, I think Lar is probably a good target for him because he's not the biggest 160. He's also fading. And I think that he has the type of skill set that Danny can offset. And he don't want none of Big Charlo because they call him he's a bigger dude. Like, I mean, it still will probably be a 157, 158 catch weight, but Charlo's a naturally bigger guy and a really big puncher. He'll probably knock Danny out. Lara's not really a danger to knock him out. He'll
I
fight
agree.
Errol because he understands that it'll be an opportunity at a second trip to the bank for an even bigger bag because now you can hype up the rematch. You get his dad talking, all that stuff. So those two fights make sense to me just from a financial standpoint or a legacy standpoint. Um, Trying to fight Jamel, he don't want no parts of that either. Jamel will beat him up in this for a smaller bag than fighting Errol. You can actually make more money fighting Spence without a belt than you would fighting Jamel for undisputed. It's a shame, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Danny's being very strategic at this age, and some part of me I can't blame him. The other part of me is like I have no interest in seeing Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia again. That fight was not competitive the first time. I think it would be worse at 154 pounds. I think Errol's going to be stronger. I think he'll have more energy. I think he's going to hit harder. I think everything that he does is going to be more devastating. So, in my opinion, there's no reason for him to get in the ring with Danny Garcia again. Danny needs to, if he wants to fight Lara, I think that's strategic to the point that you made. Maul is going to be a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot bigger puncher. There's somebody like Lara who's going to be more of a boxer and is probably like 39 years old right now, right? So less of a threat to Danny. So he's being really strategic in what it is that he's trying to do. So I can't necessarily knock him for that, but I have no interest in seeing him versus Lara. I have no interest in seeing him versus Spence. I would love to see him versus Tony Harrison, but he doesn't have any interest in that. I would love to see him versus Fundora, but it doesn't sound like he has interest in that either. I would like to see him get in the ring with Mel and challenge himself to be great. That would be interesting, but I don't think he has any interest in that as well. So for me, the fights that I think the fight fans will really have interest in, he doesn't have interest in. So, one more fight, go fight Laura, see if you can win a title or get another weight, another title at another division at a catch weight. A lot of the fight fans will remember what that title looked like and probably won't give it too much credence. And then go on and retire, man, because if you're not going to give us the fights that we want, then it's time for you to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with all. I would say Brian Castano will be a really good competitive fight, even though Castano's a little big, he's shorter. So I think from a stature standpoint, it's a good look for him. I think it might pose the same type of physical challenge as he had against Jose Benavidez, except not as tall. There's some good competitive fights that Danny could have if he actually wanted to be a 154-pound champion. If he's looking for an easy path to a belt, that's the only reason Lara's name comes up. And if he's looking for an easy path to a payday, you're going to take an ass whooping for it. But if you're going to get beat up, make it to a legend so you can at least be like, hey, Spence just had my number. You don't add another guy to your loss. You add just another loss. And that's a key.
Right.
You didn't lose to 5 different people. You lost to 4 different people. Just one guy got you twice. And you could just say, he just had my number. He's a guy I couldn't beat, just like Tyson Fury is for Wilder. No shame in that because these are your elite of the boxers. Something Brenda said, what did she say? I missed it. Oh, nobody in it for legacy. So let me clarify what I mean by legacy in this particular regard. What I'm talking about is when a guy gets past like 32, 33 years old and he's still an active boxer, he's doing things to get him into the Hall of Fame if it's even a question. If he's a multi-division champion, he's getting people in his ear that are saying, bro, you're going to be coming up on this ballot in 3 or 4 years. These are the things you need to have on your resume. You either need to have this many wins, you need to have this particular fight, or you need to have this many divisions with a championship. Let's look at Nonito Donaire. He's actually going to get a belt at 118, even though he doesn't need to. He's got nothing to prove at that weight class. You're a bully down there if you believe in that, because you've been a champion at 126, but he's trying to get that 5 division distinction. He's 40 years old. I don't have a problem with him pursuing that. Same thing with Danny. He's just looking for what's going to look good on the resume when the Hall of Fame starts looking. Y'all have to think about that once a fighter gets to 34, 35 years old.
No, I agree. I agree. He'll probably make the Hall of Fame, but again, real fight fans will remember how he got those titles. And if he does end up fighting Laura and he's able to beat him at a catch weight, fight fans won't really necessarily look at it as a legitimate title at 160 pounds for Danny Garcia.
I agree. It's just on paper. It's just paper now. Because in
Yep.
50 years, once you're already in the Hall of Fame, nobody's going to remember what condition Laura was in when you got that belt. They're just going to see 3 division, Danny Swift Garcia, 3 division champion in his career. 50 years from now, that's all my great grandkids going to know.
Yeah, facts. Facts. That's what a lot of folks in sport count on statistics in order to say that this guy was great because they didn't get the opportunity to see him. So,
You didn't have to do LeBron.
yeah, that's exactly who I was talking about. So,
I'm not a LeBron. I'm with it. That's why I caught it.
so, so earlier this week, Terence Crawford decided to go to his Twitter, and he went off on Fannon and he went off on Boxing Ego, and I thought it was interesting. Shout out to Fannon. He was in the chat last week. I've actually had the opportunity to exchange emails with Fannon in the past. I like Fannon. Boxing Ego, I don't know a whole lot about. I haven't necessarily watched his stuff too tough. I've seen some of his stuff, but I haven't watched it too tough.
He's entertaining.
But he went off. He went off on a man, and Crawford. I've heard people talking about, well, what do you expect that you talked about somebody so much? Eventually, they're going to say something. Crawford, my opinion is, number one, he seems a bit sensitive. But not overly sensitive, but a little bit sensitive to some of the things that are being said to him. I think a lot of people feel like he's the reason why this fight hasn't been made. But the thing that's very interesting to me and where, I think Terence Crawford got to be very mindful of what he's saying and what he's doing is that, all this stuff, like he really wants smoke with individuals who are simply YouTubers. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, why you got all this smoke for Fannon? Why you got all this smoke for Boxing Ego? They hose this, they hose that. At the end of the day, man, and I said this in the video that I did, that, people just want to see Terence Crawford in the ring with the best fighters in and around his weight class. And I think if he were to fight some of those guys that were on the PBC a few years ago, and don't get me wrong, I feel like Thurman made the comment that he needed to have a belt and didn't necessarily want to make the fight at the time, and then at the point in which Thurman would have wanted to make the fight, he wasn't no longer a champion. But there was opportunity to fight Porter earlier. There was opportunities to walk away from Bob Arum and Top Rank and move over to the PBC, so he would have gotten those fights. All that stuff. He had these opportunities, man, to make moves, and fans see that he didn't make moves, and those are the reason. That's the reason why fans get on him like they do, because they feel like he's been elevated to a status that his resume doesn't necessarily support. So, T, what's your thoughts on that, man? Just the comments that he made online. I guess you can call them threatening comments about Fannon and everybody else. I mean, everybody hoes, man. We all hoes. What's your thoughts on that?
So I guess I got to start lumping us in with those guys as fellow content creators. I think that because it's a non-traditional form of media, the response is non-traditional as well. Because if Max says something that he didn't like multiple times, he ain't going to go at Max like that. Network ties aside, he ain't going to do that. Or Chris Mannix or Sergio Moore or whatever, he's not going to talk to them like that. But Fanon and Ego are easy targets. If you look at Fannon physically, he's an older gentleman. He's in his 50s, and he'll tell you in a minute, I ain't fighting nobody. If you look at Boxing Ego, I mean, what you can see of him, Boxing Ego is a little bit bigger dude, but he ain't in shape either. Now, there's somebody that's online. You may not be aware of him, but some of the viewers may be. BFTB.
Yeah, I
and
recently
talk.
heard about him. Some people had
Yeah.
mentioned him in the comments section. I don't know if he's big or not, but I just want to interject really quickly. I don't know if the people in the chat got the opportunity to see the picture that I posted with manager Marty and Mr. Pragmatic, but I don't know if you guys see. But I'm fairly swole myself, man. I think when people see me in person, they'll realize that I'm probably not an easy win. Jason Williams, that's for you. I ain't no easy win. Go ahead, T. I had to put that out there.
But nah, you're kind of going with the point that I'm saying. It's certain dudes that, and I'm not saying he's scared to fight nobody that make YouTube videos. That's not what I'm saying. But
Right.
you never know where the ass is gonna come from to be real.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're a boxer don't mean somebody else might not have something to sleep you. Let's keep it real. But
Yeah.
that being said, BFTB he's like probably your size and personal trainer build. You know what I mean? I ain't
Right.
hear him say nothing. And this dude have the ugliest memes ever about Terence Crawford, and it's like, where's the energy for people that have some type
Maybe
of
he
skin?
doesn't know him because I checked out his channel. He has like almost 10,000, I think. Maybe he
Yeah,
doesn't
he
know
right
him
around. I
because I had
maybe
never
that's
heard
what.
of him before people mentioned him in the comment section.
Okay, and that's very much possible too. But it's some people that go at him a lot harder, and they actually call him out of his name. Fanon don't call him out of his name. In fact, he gives Bud a lot of credit for the things that he's achieved in his career. Whether he legitimizes them at a high or low level, he still gives him credit for being 3 division champion, undisputed at 140, welterweight title for so many years, knockout streak. Ego says, I think Terence Crawford is a great fighter. I watch both their channels for entertainment more than anything, and I don't really hear anything nasty. I hear them saying, basically kind of letting it be known, like, I respect what he's achieved, but he's not my cup of tea. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. And I think that that's the biggest issue that's at the forefront, is that he's shooting at popular people who actually give him credit. It's people that have 5, 6, 7,000 subs that call him all kind of names, and I don't hear him
Mm-hmm.
saying anything about them. So it's like, if you're not gonna have the same energy across the board, stay above it. Don't waste your time with that. Like, you're in Creed 3. That's not good for your brand if you're trying to be in Creed 4. Because somebody gonna show them tweets and be like, "Man, we had this dude in our series. We can't bring him back. Look at this foolishness. We don't need this." He
Yeah.
going back and forth on Twitter.
Planet 619 said Buzz knows BFTB. He's had exchanges. Bomac and Buzz nephew. He was on a panel with both of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I said, like some guys are a lot bigger than what you think they are in person. I saw Blue Blood. Blue Blood actually looks like a small guy, like a small kind of pudgy guy to me a little bit. I don't think he's
Yeah,
all that big. When I saw this guy, BFTB, he looked pretty big. He looked like he was probably like my size. I don't know how big. I don't know exactly how big he is, but he looked pretty big. And you don't know how big some guys are, man. I mean, especially when you see them in person. I mean, T, I don't know exactly how big you are, but you look fairly fit, man. So I would venture to say that you could be a problem in these streets for somebody. So I mean, and I know Terence Crawford got hands, man. Like, I wouldn't want to have to square off with Terence Crawford. I mean, he got hands.
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be able to hit him. But at the end of the day, if I had to defend myself, my strategy would be to grab him. Because what is he, 140, 150 pounds?
Yeah, and he stay on
I
weight.
yeah, I'm pretty strong. I'm pretty sure if I grab him, that he's not going to be stronger. So those are the types of things. I mean, you just got to be in. Like I mentioned on there, I said, somebody's either going to run, sue, or shoot. You know what I mean? You don't want to deal with that, man. Just let that stuff go. People say what they're going to say about you. There's people that say all kind of stuff about us in the comment section. I've gotten to the point now where I find stuff hilarious. Somebody went
Yeah,
under Manager Marty's post of us, because Manager Marty also posted a picture of his community of the get together that we had the other day, and the guy came in there and said a bunch of bums hating on Crawford, and I laughed out loud when I saw that, because I find some of the reactions that people have to this stuff now entertaining, and it doesn't bother me at all.
yeah. It don't bother me. Like, it's, once I got onto the other side, I used just be in the comments, come on the show. Now that I've got that channel going, I'm in the comments and I'm everything under the sun, to the point where I don't even have held for review anymore. put all your comments up there. If it's something crazy and it's a bad look, I'm just gonna delete it because it's embarrassing to you at this point. It's not me. Like, if I'm not saying anything to provoke you, then or I'm not doing anything to provoke you, if you're putting crazy stuff in the comments, that's on you. I would think that somebody like Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Gervonta Davis, like if we're gonna keep it a buck while JM is here, I think it's JM, is saying people are tearing it down. You know who else is really sensitive on Twitter? Say something crazy about Tank and see if he don't get at you too. But I don't really see him going at content creators. He's going at people that are directly replying to his tweets and saying things that he doesn't like. But Bud is actually going at content creators who are actually keeping his name in the rotation.
Yeah.
They actually bigging you up because all press is good press, bro. Just live with it, thicken up that skin a little bit and keep it moving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm tired of Jason Williams. They talking about wrestling. I'm sorry, but I'm struggling with a 5'8" guy that's 150 pounds giving me that big of a challenge wrestling. Guy again, guys, I'm almost 6'2" and I'm 210 pounds, bro. Like, he's gonna struggle with just grabbing me to begin with. Like, what the fuck? Like, this ain't gonna be no. I'm telling you, from a wrestling match, this ain't gonna be. You're not gonna just scoop me and slam me, bitch. I'm not. Oh, I just cursed. I'm not Devin Haney, bro. What the fuck you talking about? All right, man. Anyway, T, I'm tripping.
It's all good. It's all good. Hey, this is like barbershop talk, but the ladies are allowed to join as well. But this is a safe space, y'all. Speak your piece. We ain't deleting comments because we sensitive and all that stuff. Speak your piece. We don't have to agree with it. Just understand. You talk crazy and it hit the wrong way, them slugs come back just as quick. That thing stay loaded, no safety.
Oh, Don Jenkins says BFTB is 6'2", 205. So we like the same size, bro.
Yeah.
We like the same size.
Bro, shape like he trained every day. Like he spend whenever he ain't on air, he probably at the gym. That type of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that when I see a professional athlete that, especially a combat athlete, going at content creators and people that follow them, it's funny to me as long as I feel like that person's not going to take it to the streets, because you have something to lose. And it's in poor taste because you actually have partners that are going to determine if they want to continue to do business with you. That content creator, most of the people that's doing this stuff don't really have partners. They're making money through views and clicks on YouTube, and then maybe they go affiliate with something on the side, get a sponsor for their show direct. But they don't have multi-million-dollar sponsorships with Everlast and Rival and all that stuff, movie deals. They don't have these things to worry about. They're not worried about blowing $1 million because they talking to you crazy on the internet. So when I look at Gervonta, Jamel was mentioned in the comments, that sensitivity, stay off the internet if you're sensitive. That ain't the place for the weak. Stay off the internet and tell your circle, if it don't affect the money, I don't want to hear about it. That's the best way to handle it. Tank needs somebody to start managing the social media. And Jamel, he actually goes off social media. So he kind of got it under wraps. But Tank and Bud, I would say both of them are really sensitive about things. I really haven't seen Tank go toe-to-toe with a lot of content creators, though, on the internet. I've seen him go at just regular people.
Yeah, let me take a second to shout out Sean Clark. Appreciate you, bro. $5, man, is much appreciated for the channel. You got to have thick skin as a public figure in the social media age. Agreed on all press being good press. Absolutely, man. You got to have thick skin, man, and people are going to say all kind of things about you. And like I said, I've gotten to a point where I find it entertaining. I want to address something. So Sid Jappy just said, yo, salute to the channel. What's the difference between Thurman and EJ resume? What are your thoughts on that?
The difference? To be honest, Thurman actually has probably a little bit beefier resume. And I've said for quite a long time, EJ needs 2 more signatures on there. Any combination of Crawford, Thurman, and Jermell or Canelo. So actually 4. So any combination, any 2 of them need to be on his resume before he retires. Because win or lose, he needs them. Thurman fought everybody. Thurman fought Danny. Thurman fought Sean. Thurman and Kell Brook fight? I don't think they did. But
no.
Thurman got Pacquiao on there. I mean, Thurman has a stout resume, like no joke, up until he kind of started spiraling out. I might even say AB at one point had a better resume than Spence. because of the people he's been in the ring with, he shared the ring with. So there's not blind love for Errol Spence to say that his resume is better just because I like that fighter over others. There is some work to do. He still need a couple legacy fights. So comparing it to Thurman, he actually needs to fight Thurman, and he wanted to fight Thurman a long time ago. So that's my opinion on it, though.
I'll comment on it very quickly. I don't know if I agree with that. They have Bundu on their resume. They both have Porter. They both have Danny Garcia. The differentiator to me is Manny Pacquiao, and Errol Spence has Kell Brook. Kell Brook was a really, really, really good fighter at the time that Errol Spence beat him, a lot better than a lot of people probably give him credit for. So I don't know if there's a stark difference between their resumes. And I think when you add Mikey Garcia, who was one of the top pound for pound fighters at the time, I can't necessarily say that I believe that, and he has Ugas on his resume as well. I can't really say that I feel that Keith Thurman's resume is better. I don't.
All right,
I think I disagree with that. Yeah, I did.
I didn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't even equate the version of Brook versus the version of maybe Pacquiao. I didn't really equate that, but when you think about it, Pacquiao was almost 40 when he fought Keith, and he put Keith down.
Yeah.
Brook was coming off of a loss, so I think it kind of levels out to some degree in that regard of when they fought them. So there's some legitimacy to what you're saying. And then when you add in a guy like Ugas, and then Mikey, and he beat the hell out of Mikey, so maybe you could call it even. I'm even what you saying that I'm probably still going to edge Keith a little bit. I just look at the resume for Keith a little bit better than Errol's, but you close that margin for me with the way you explained it. I still have Keith a little higher though.
I think I still have Errol a little bit higher, but it is what it is. It's opinions. All right, man. The last topic I wanted to cover, T, because we even got past the halfway mark and we still haven't opened up the phone line, so I want to make sure that we do that as well. I did a video right before we came on, and I was scrolling my phone earlier today. And, I'm always looking at boxing content. I don't really look at people's YouTube channels because I don't like for people, I've had somebody come and say, oh, you guys got this idea from somebody that we didn't get any idea from. We typically just look at information that's online and then we formulate what it is that we're going to say and do. But I was reading this article, and it was from a guy by the name of Dan Ambrose. And Dan put up an article on boxingnews24.com talking about the fact that Errol Spence, Jermall Charlo, and Gennady Golovkin should be stripped. And the reason being is that the frequency of fighting, which does make sense from a Jermall Charlo and a Gennady Golovkin perspective, as well as Errol Spence holding up the division, is the reason why Errol Spence should be stripped. And I just thought that was interesting and didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, T, because when you think about what Errol has been doing since he won the championship back in 2017, he's been unifying titles. He and Terence Crawford, they've had the same amount of title defenses, or at least the same amount of fights since they both won their titles at welterweight. So how is it that you're mentioning Errol Spence's name, but you're not mentioning Terence Crawford's name? And we know that over the last, let's call it 5 years, we've had COVID. We know that Errol Spence had a near fatal car crash. We know that he had a detached retina, and somehow he still unified 3 out of the 4 belts within the welterweight division. So they'll point out that he hasn't fought or defended his IBF title in X amount of years. But at the end of the day, he's been unifying titles. So, I mean, what do we want? We've always said that we want one face, one name, one champion. But yet we're saying that a champion that's been trying to unify the titles, he needs to be stripped. Like, which one is it? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, T. So I want to throw it over to you very quickly. What are your thoughts on the notion that Errol Spence should be stripped of his titles, even though he's technically scheduled to fight Keith Thurman to defend one of those titles, or at least to satisfy his mandatory? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I disagree with that completely. The simple version is he's actually defended it. He hasn't fought an IBF mandatory since 2018. However, he's defended that belt 3 times since.
Exactly.
He's defended it against Sean Porter. He's defended it against Danny Garcia, and he's defended it against Yordenis Ugas, and he's going to defend it again. So people have to understand, if you're defending your title, if you go into the ring and there's a chance for you to lose it, you're defending that belt, whether it's mandatory or not. Somebody had the opportunity to take that belt off that man, and they couldn't do it. They all got their asses kicked. One of them got stopped. I don't think he's holding up the division. In that time, you pointed out everything I was going to say. Quick highlight of the car accident, COVID, and the detached retina, and he still has 5 fights over since 2018 or something like that versus the versus well counting Kell Brooks since 2017, 5 fights. In that same time, Bud has 7. So if you're comparing the two, why isn't he moving the needle more? Why didn't he unify when Errol Spence was on the sideline? Why didn't he go get the WBA belt when it was on, when it was up for grabs and Spence was out the loop? So I just question that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's a bunch of talk. It's to create a narrative about information that can easily be verified. But yet, a lot of people, man, they just, they already want to believe something and they just run with a narrative. And a lot of people are unwilling to do the requisite research in order to confirm what they're hearing and come up with their own idea of what something should be. So we'll wrap it up with that, man, because at the end of the day, we know what it is. These guys are they're just trying to create a narrative because, simply put, they're in favor of a specific fighter or entity. All right, T, man, we are at an hour and 15 minutes in, so I want to pause very quickly and throw out some love to our sponsors, Rock Dog Interactive and Black Father Figures. Black Father Lives Matter. Also, shout out to the Mic Check Podcast. T, that is your cue. Please drop the link to your channel in the chat section.
He worked
also,
today.
Yeah, it's AM Sports Media, the Angry Man Podcast. We are always dropping boxing content on a daily basis. So when you have the opportunity, go to the the lower right-hand corner, hit that subscribe button, join the channel, join the family. We're always dropping that content. I'm sure you will enjoy it. And if you haven't had the opportunity yet, please hit the like button or the dislike button if you don't like the content, but make sure that you're always interacting with the content. Because right now we got 88 people in the building and 57 likes. Let's go ahead and get those likes up, people. The phone line is up and running and ready to go, and we ready to take phone calls. So, man, who's going to be the first brave soul that's going to call in to the show?
Come on, JM, call in, bro. You in them comments. Come on up here, get on this mic. Let's go. So while we wait for that call to come in, kind of just on the back end of what we were talking about as far as the division being held up, let's think about what really could have transpired in this time. The big names in the division really weren't trying to move anyway. Where were the belts going to go? You don't want Boots to have a belt 2 years ago. Virgil didn't need a belt 2 years ago. What are you going to do with that for the division? It's not really going to move it forward. You're going to have musical belts all that time. If that's what fight fans want, that's fine. I want to see one champion defend the belts multiple times. That's my thing. So I don't need to see these smaller dudes that's still on the come up, and every 2 months you got a new champion just because these dudes really aren't that good. Sean Porter was on his way out. Keith Thurman was sitting on the sideline. Urdinas Ugas was making his come up. And I think that win is going to age like fine wine, to be honest, because he's actually proven to be a really good fighter. You really had nothing else outside of Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. What was the division actually going to be doing anyway? And what's it going to do now? Because these young guys that are making a quest for the belts have significant flaws. Virgil's still very flawed. Even though he's a good fighter, he's not great yet. Jaron Ennis is a very flawed fighter. He's good, but not great. So even when these belts get handed over to this next group of young lions, it's probably still going to pass around a little bit, because I think on any given night, Boots or Virgil could beat each other, and Stanionis could make a case for himself as well. Yeah. And then you got guys like Blair Cobbs, Rashidi Ellis, who just happened to have a good night, in my opinion, but the judges thought otherwise. You got a lot of guys that could be in the mix. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, really. I've said for the longest time the WBO had Virgil Ortiz and Gervonta Davis installed as number 1 and number 2 since like the end of 2020, and yet there was no push for an elimination fight between those two individuals to become the mandatory, right? Now, whether that was because Virgil Ortiz wanted that fight or not, we know Virgil didn't want that fight at the time, and I understand that. So, that's not Crawford's fault. But I absolutely think Gervonta Davis would have taken that fight in a heartbeat. And so that, because that fight wasn't made, I kind of find it interesting that the WBO did not actually force those guys to fight.
Yeah.
And but nobody brings that up. And I always think that that's very interesting that nobody brings that up. So T, we got our first caller coming in, 510. You are on the Angry Man podcast with Jason and Greg, but today is T. Who do we got in the building?
Oh, what's up, man? This is Donald out the Bay Area, man. I called you guys a couple times in the past.
Yeah, I remember. What's going on with you, bro?
Oh, what's up? Oh, yeah, well, I haven't heard y'all react to the news. It kind of made lukewarm news, but the fact that Bud team actually wasn't lying about Virgil Ortiz ducking that fight. The WBO president came out and admitted that Virgil was offered a Bud fight twice and turned it down. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, so we've heard about that, and we've acknowledged that for a while, that he had the opportunity to actually fight Terence Crawford and didn't want to fight. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a younger fighter who obviously is flawed and didn't want to step up and take the fight. Now, I feel like they should have then forced an eliminator or moved him out of the number one position. Why not? If he doesn't want to take the fight and you're a fighter that's number one and ranked number one and you don't want to fight, move him. Now you get pushed down to number two and let Jaron Ennis assume the number one contender spot and allow him the opportunity to become mandatory and fight for the title. But, I mean, I'm not going to knock Ortiz for not wanting to fight necessarily. Maybe his promoter said that he wasn't ready for the fight. Maybe his trainer doesn't really feel like they're ready for the fight and they want to push that or put that on hold. So I'm not going to knock him because he's not a finished product. He's not a fully developed fighter. Neither is Jaron Ennis. So even though people have been, pushing for Jaron to be the next biggest thing, he's not a finished product. He's not a final product. So I wouldn't have necessarily have an issue with not pushing him into that number one position. But, it is what it is. But I think Ennis wanted the heat. I think he wanted the smoke. And I think the WBO held those two guys at number one and number two and didn't really make or push any changes within their ranking system in order to get some of these better fighters in the ring with Terence Crawford. What are your thoughts on that, T?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Greg Hackett, he was on YSM Media, and he kind of took the words out of my mouth when he said that sometimes you just know when your fighter's not ready. And there's wrinkles that Bud was going to bring to the table 2 years ago when Virgil first got to number one or when Boots first got to number two that them guys probably weren't ready for. They've had a couple fights since then and an opportunity to grow their skill set. And now they may feel like I'm streaking right now. I feel my strongest. I've grown into my grown man strength. Now I'm ready to get in there with that wild lion and give him a true fight. I don't think they're very tough competition for Bud 2 years ago. But now I think they give him at least a good fight, even though I don't really favor either one to beat him yet. That being said, I think it was smart on the part of Virgil's team to decline those fights because he's still in the opportunity to be a title holder anyway. He's right back in the mix for the WBO belt without having to fight him 2 years ago.
Yeah, you don't want to move a fighter along too quickly, man. That's the wrong move. You don't want to move a fighter along too quickly. We've seen with what happens with fighters that are moved on along too quickly. I always point to David Reed as an example, the classic example of why you don't want to move a fighter too fast. Fernando Vargas is another one that got moved too quickly. I think that fight with Tito Trinidad ruined his career. And then David Reed, who was that David Reed? Was it Tito? I think David Reed got beat by Tito too, wasn't it?
I don't.
Who was that David Reed got the brakes beat off of him by? Wasn't it Tito Trinidad?
I'm drawing the blank, to be honest.
Hold on. I'm just looking it up. It always annoys me when I can't think of Yeah, he was 17-2. Yeah, it was Felix Trinidad that busted him up like that. So he wasn't ready for it. Felix Trinidad changed a couple of careers. They put those guys in the ring with Trinidad too quickly, and that was the result. So I'm okay with them avoiding that fight, but I do believe Boots wanted to smoke, but he probably wasn't ready for that fight either. But I still want to see him in the ring with either he or Spence. I want to see him in the ring with both of them because I think those are really interesting fights.
No, I just think that was interesting because we know who Buzz, we know Buzz's reputation of ducking fights, not really fighting the best. And then I find that interesting that it came out that the because remember a member of Buzz's team actually when the Spence fight fell through, a member of Bud's team actually put out that message that they offered Virgil to fight, and everybody, including myself, was like, "What? Heck no!" And then they hear from the W prisoner himself, like, "Yeah, no, that was true. Not only did he turn down the fight once, he turned down the fight twice." I was like, "Wow!" So Bud actually wasn't lying. Like, they did offer him the fight. Yeah. And I think that was interesting because remember after when Virgil Ortiz fought Marty Hooker, remember Bud was in the house and he actually called him out like to his face, like, hey, like, I want you next. So then I just find it, interesting that, things have changed. And so, yeah, I don't know, but I just thought that was interesting that given, people perception of Bud. Like I said, I'm an EJ fan, I acknowledge Bud is a great fighter. But I'm more EJ. But so I'm not like this Bud fan calling up like trying to get on Bud's back. Like it's not like that. But I do have to give him credit for actually stepping up and trying to take the fight, even though the fight fell through. Because like I said, most people's perception of that is like the Bud is like, nah, he's ducking the big fights. But I found that interesting that he was trying to get the Virgil fight, and it was Virgil team.
I don't find that interesting at all. I mean, I find it interesting for different reasons. It does make sense why you would want to fight some guy that's a rookie who hasn't fully flourished into what he's going to be. Yeah. That's actually prime pickings for somebody like Terence Crawford. So I don't give him credit for that, but maybe some of those who are in the chat, like Brendan McDonald, probably would.
That's what they say. Floyd.
I mean, but who else is at 147 for him to fight? If he's not fighting EJ, who else said where is he gonna fight? Keith Thurman? I mean, I know that I would love to see him fight, but who else?
At the time, he probably could have left Top Rank and then came on over to the PBC and got a lot of good fights in. So
yeah, or busy fights.
Yeah, fights that would have been more competitive than a young Virgil Ortiz who's not ready to fight him
and raise his profile.
That's always been my issue with Bud is that I felt like he stayed with Top Rank because it basically lined his pockets and he wasn't necessarily chasing greatness and could have been chasing greatness by moving over to the PBC or becoming an independent entity and having the opportunity to fight some of those fights that we wanted to see. So those are my challenges with Bud, but yeah, it is what it is. Anything else you want to share with the people, man?
Oh, just that so far, like remember last time I called you guys, I was saying that I was kind of losing hope of boxing, but ever since I said that, boxing seems to be coming back. But if this Tank and Ryan fight, and then the Clinton Benavidez, so this year is actually looking pretty good. Hopefully we get some more. I ain't gonna even say the other two names, so I'm gonna leave that alone. But hopefully we get some more. I'm hearing that Wilder and Fury have happened again. I would love to see that. And so this year is actually looking a lot better. Like I said, it's just funny. Last time I called you guys, I was like, man, I don't know about boxing now. These fights are falling through. That,
right.
This is actually shaping up to be a dope year again.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good year, man. That's my opinion. I think we're going to see a lot of good fights that we want to see this year, and we'll go from there. We'll see what it ends up being.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah, I just wanted to just chime in on that. But yeah, great show, and I'm gonna listen back.
Hey,
all right, man. Appreciate you, bro.
Subscribe to the Mike Check podcast.
All right, man.
All right, peace. All right, man. Man, Jason Williams said we capping, bro. He said we capping.
That's good.
How we capping? Jason Williams always thinks I'm capping, man. There's nothing new with that. I'm always capping. All right, man. We got somebody else calling in from 832. This is a Houston number, I think.
Yeah, that's Houston. H-time.
You are on the Angry Man podcast with Greg and T. Who do we have in the building?
Tracy Jackson out of Corpus Christi, Texas.
What's going on with you, man?
I'm chilling, brothers. Listen, I just discovered your channel, and I love you guys. I was following Blue Blood and the other Fannon for a while, and I didn't even know your channel exists. And I do love your perspective.
Appreciate it.
And I do have a question. Do you feel now that Adrian Broner is trying to get a career resurrection? Do you feel that he should avenge his losses, starting with McDonough and Mikey Garcia?
So
that
both of those
like
guys
a
are
big come up.
Yo, both of those guys are retired though, so there won't be an opportunity to revenge those losses. I would love to.
You don't think that if the purse was big enough, because Maidana at one point was considering coming back, but I guess he just couldn't get back in shape. But if the purse is big enough, and again, Adrian Broner is an excellent self-promoter, and he's able to make himself into a big enough villain to, let's say, the Hispanic community, the Mexican or the Hispanic community, to where they would actually push for Maidana to jump back in that ring just to see what would happen. If you allow Adrian Broner to speak as he does.
I mean, the fights would be big. Like if Maidana could get back in a shape that would, he would appear to look like he did before. But honestly, I would say you would probably need to make sure that Maidana gets a tune-up fight first so he actually looks like the Maidana of old. Because I think in the back of a lot of people's mind, that's an old fat Maidana that's just worked his way back into shape, just weight in order to get a paycheck. So I would like to see him in a fight first before I would say that would be a big fight. Now, Mikey Garcia,
that makes sense.
I would love to see him fight Mikey Garcia. I think the outcome of that fight would be the same. I don't think AB is going to be able to beat him. I think AB's best bet, honestly, and I think this is a fight that can be made. I think 2 fights can be made for Adrian Broner that I think would be pretty big fights, at least from a hype perspective. Well, one from a hype perspective and the other one from an actual fight perspective. I would love to see him in the ring with Rolly. I think from a lead up and a build up, I think that fight would be amazing. 2 mouthpieces.
That would be big. Yeah, they both talk major smack. Yeah.
Oh my God, that fight would be amazing in terms of the build up and all the all the smack that they would be talking, and then the background would be the fact that AB and Tank are cool. So can AB replicate what Tank was able to do? You know what I mean? So I think that would be an interesting fight. And then the other fight that I believe that would put asses in seats would be Regis Prograis. I think a lot of people would love to see AB in the ring with Regis Prograis, maybe after 1 or 2 fights, to see if AB, you need to put AB in a match where he's going to look good, something that's, appears threatening on the surface, but maybe not so much in reality. Get those 2 in the ring. I think you would have a big fight. I think you could put some asses in seats. And I think that Regis Prograis is open to working with BLK Prime. So I think those are 2 opportunities that would be realistic for Adrian Broner. I don't necessarily think that Maidana or Mikey Garcia are fights that are realistic. T, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm an absolute no on Maidana. That's too much work to get him ready for a fight that's supposed to be the lead into AB's comeback. Remember, this first fight back was supposed to be, look, AB's back. Then the second was going to be like, oh, wow, he's really back. And then the third is Regis Prograis. That's the timeline. That's why they needed to fight in February. They needed this fight to stay on track so they can get 3 fights this year. I think other people, I think Kell Brook's a better fight because he's washed enough to not hurt Broner, but still give him a good fight, win or lose. That's the type of stuff you should be looking for, somebody who's not too far removed and somebody who's not too concerned about coming down too far in weight. That way AB don't need to come down any further. He could be at 150, 152, whatever. Kell Brook could be happy to make 154, whatever. So I think that that's actually a better look. They also said in the comments, but I don't think anybody should be looking at AB in a real fight. He's not looking for a real fight. He's looking for a showcase. So you got to pick somebody that's a good showcase. Somebody nobody knows, but just enough people. Does that make sense? Yeah. Who do you think, just based on that information just threw out there, who would you suggest that's like a good showcase for him? That's going to make him look good, like a good dance partner. Who comes to mind for you?
Who did Terence Crawford beat? That Indian dude from England. Who was that guy?
Avanesian?
Khan.
How about Khan?
Khan might do it. That's actually a really good showcase, to be honest.
Because Khan did beat Maidana, so it would be like a type of thing that Yeah,
I actually like that fight, and AB might actually get a chance to knock somebody out. What do you think, Greg?
Khan's done. After Brook put him into retirement, he's done.
Oh, okay.
I mean, all these dudes retired.
Kell Brook would then look good between them.
Kell Brook on coke. He's done.
That's the perfect opponent. Coach out Kell Brook against wired up AB. Sign me up.
Well, real quick, I heard that J-Rock is moving up to 160 to fight, to try to get the title to fight the Charlo brother, Jamal.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
I heard I think Marty mentioned that like a week or so ago. That
it was something. He's interviewing his manager or somebody. I forgot who it was. And so I thought to me that's a bad move. I always thought that J-Rock would perform way better if he went down to 147 and not 154. I always thought he was too small for the talented big fighters. Like he'll get hit hard and get knocked out, which proven twice. You know what I mean? Right. And I always thought that if he went down to 147, he'll be like an Errol Spence in that weight class, where he has the ability to move up, but he's at a solid, height, good strength, and things of that nature. What are your thoughts on that? It might be too late, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely too late. He probably would have fared better at 147 pounds. I don't know if he actually had the ability to get down to that weight. But, yeah, he probably would have fared better. Because how tall is J-Rock? Like 5'11"?
Yeah, J-Rock kind of tall. Not tall, but taller, for a fight.
Yeah, I thought he was like, for some reason I have 5'11" in my mind. But, I mean, I don't know if he could have actually gotten down to 147 pounds.
He just seemed like a smaller 154. I mean,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I don't recall anybody he was bigger than at 154. Like that guy Rosario that knocked him out. Rosario was much bigger than him. I just thought that he was just a small 154. To me, it just seemed that way. And I always saw him as being way more productive at 147. But, that's in the air.
Gotcha. And then down there but killers now.
Now to get,
Ain't nothing down there but killers now. 147, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think J-Rock, he's such a talent. I think we couldn't really see it at 154 like we would at 147. So hopefully he's listening to because I think 160 he's gonna get slaughtered.
Yeah, he might. We'll see. I think he's gonna try to get back with Jamal Charlo. So we'll see what ends up happening with that.
Oh, Charlo at 160 is gonna really pound on him, man. Yeah. I think he's even stronger now. So I don't even think he's gonna be able to. I don't know. Hopefully something to come out of that. I'm trying to think of something now that I got you on the phone. You know what? I guess that's all my theories and
all right.
Stuff like that. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, brothers. And you have a dedicated fan right here of your channel.
Okay. You subscribe?
Oh, yeah, I'm subscribed. I just didn't here. Let me put the thumbs up right now.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate
that's all I did too. But yeah, I subscribed the first time I heard you guys. It was maybe about 2 or 3 days ago. And I didn't know
okay.
Exist. And then when I came across it and I heard, the intelligence, and I said, wait a minute, finally, you know what I'm saying? Some intelligent, so I immediately subscribed. And I subscribed to Coach Marty too. I never heard of him either, except when you guys mentioned him. And I subscribed to him also.
Perfect.
And
awesome.
So, you guys need to, I don't know how you promote your channels, but literally, maybe, what they call that? Trolling would be the key to get on other people's channels so people to know you guys exist. Because once they hear your channel, hear you guys speak, I'm sure people will switch over.
I appreciate that, man. We really do appreciate that, and that's what we are trying to bring to the game. And welcome to the channel, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, my brother. You have a good day, brother.
All right, you too. Bye. Oh man, I gotta remember his number. Calling Run 501. Hang up. Come on, man. Run. Why you coming in hating, bro? Like, what's the issue? Because the man support our channel. What's Run? Who is Run 501? Like, Run, you must be new. First time I've seen your name.
Yeah, that's definitely a new name in the chat. I've never seen.
All right, man. So where were we, T? what else we got cooking? We've covered all the all the topics for the channel.
So, did you if you want, we could touch on Floyd Mayweather. Some people are over Floyd because he's not a active fighter anymore. Some people actually enjoy the entertainment. I'm one of those people that, as long as greatness is willing to step into their field, into their sport, I'm going to watch. I watched Floyd's fight yesterday, and Floyd is so good at boxing that even when he's not trying to be good at boxing, he looks like amazing. Like his pull counter is still fast. And I know he was obviously fighting somebody that's not quite as fast and as agile, but this is a former fighter. I think this was a UFC guy coming over. And Floyd, he looked good, man. He was doing a lot of stuff with his hands. He had some decent combinations. He obviously was playing around between rounds and stuff, but I don't mind when I see boxers that are not far from it actually get in there and perform. I thought it was pretty cool to keep seeing Floyd fighting. I ain't paid for it, I ain't gonna lie. But I thought it was fun to see, and I'm wondering, do you entertain any of that with Floyd, or do the people in the comments, do they watch
I don't.
stuff?
I don't entertain it. I have not watched any of Run. I almost said Run. Run's on my mind now. Run has been a dedicated subscriber for over a year. So yeah, thank you, Run. Appreciate that. Yeah. So I don't watch that stuff, man. With Floyd, like I can't. Was it free? Because I can't pay for that. Like
Well,
it's the
it's free
same
on-
with It was free.
Not really, but I found it free on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna pay for that, man. Like just like I won't pay for what's those kids' name? They're fighting right now, right? Tommy Fury versus what's the kid's name?
Jake Paul.
Jake
Yeah,
Paul?
my son is watching it real time. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not paying for that. Like I don't view him as a fighter. So just like I view Floyd as a retired fighter, I don't view him as like a fighter. Floyd is an exhibitionist. That's what I view Floyd as. And so I don't want to pay money to watch Floyd kind of just beat up on a guy. So for me, I don't watch it, but I do support him. I get what he's doing. I just don't support him financially in that regard. But I totally get it.
Yeah, I dig it. I don't pay for the exhibitions that he's doing. That just doesn't make sense to me. But it was kind of just cool to see him still get in there and scrap and do his thing. Like it was just cool to see that Floyd still got it, and he's just a couple years older than me. So it's just a testament when people talk about them old dudes. Like, hey, get in the ring with that and let Floyd whoop your ass. Like, let's not get it twisted. He still got them hands. But I do understand that for some fight fans, there's no value in what he's doing because it doesn't count for anything. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't move titles. It doesn't move a career forward. It's just him getting money in retirement in a very safe space. I just thought it was cool to see him. Somebody had something in here. Floyd didn't rob any banks. What was it? Oh, LT said Floyd needs to start passing his gifts to the next generation. So LT, I want to say this. I think this way across all sports. There are certain athletes that perform at such a high level, they'll never be great coaches because it's either going to be all about them, which we've seen with Floyd and Gervonta, or they don't know how to relate or translate those gifts to the next generation. Peyton Manning makes a horrible coach. There's a reason he's not in coaching yet. He does QB camps, but he's not a coach. There's a reason. It doesn't always translate.
Yeah, for the most part, it seems like those who are truly gifted at something, the ability to actually communicate it is difficult. And the reason why is because they're trying to communicate something that the other person simply cannot do. You can't have the same level of reflexes of Floyd Mayweather. So the way that he's teaching defense and stuff like that might not necessarily translate to you, or he may not understand why you're not getting something as quickly as he is because he's a gifted boxer relative to his ring IQ. So, communicating something in a way that the people actually understand is important, and Floyd may not have the ability to do that. Now, I don't know if Floyd does or doesn't. He may have the ability to do it. I have no idea. But he's seen his dad train. His dad was able to train him, and his dad has been able to train others as well. So, you would think he would make a good coach. Well, I mean, Roger was a good coach, and Roger was really good as well. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and I think there's a certain level because if you look throughout the NFL and you look throughout the NBA, there's a lot of former players that were coaching. But is it the elite of the elite? There's a reason Kobe couldn't be a coach. He could do a camp, but he can't be the
Yeah.
coach. Michael
Yeah.
Jordan can do a camp, but he can't be the coach, because when it comes down to training and developing
I
skills,
give you
in
one
people,
though. I give you one. I give you one. Larry Bird.
Okay.
Great
Was Larry
coach,
Bird
great player. Yes.
You
Celtic. The Pacers.
Pacers. Okay. Okay. See, I
Great
thought he
coach,
was a
great
GM.
player. No, he was
Okay.
he was the coach.
Okay.
He took him to
But
the
look
final.
at
That was that Game 7 against the Bulls in 1998, where he had the stone face when Reggie Miller hit the shot, and then they went to the finals together in 2000. That was Larry Bird coaching that team.
Okay. Then again, that's a one. And then somebody just threw Deion Sanders in the comments. I can agree with that. So if you want to pivot from this topic, since it's kind of on it, and you ain't got to touch it if you don't want, I did a video on it. Michael Williams Jr. had to pull out of the AB fight, which would have been yesterday. And there were some different things going on where there were some issues with his father not listening to the young man when he said, I don't want to be here. Roy's not doing what we expected. You know, some things are different. What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't think you guys actually did a video on that one this week. What were your thoughts? Because if you did, I must have missed it.
We did a video talking about Roy Jones Jr., whether or not he had been exposed because of this camping. We did touch on it a little bit. But you're saying that the kid Michael Williams Jr., who, by the way, was actually in the comment section on one of our videos in regards to this fight. So that was interesting. You're saying that he did not want to be in camp with Roy Jones. I personally, and I don't know Roy's skill or anything like that, but it seems like Roy's a horrible coach, man. It just seems like he's not a good coach. And Greg wanted to sentence Michael Williams Jr. to death. That's not true. I just wanted the kid to get the opportunity to make the money. So Roy doesn't seem to be a good fit for a coach for the same reasons we've been talking about, and I think that's the reason why you made the transition to what we're talking about right now. And so I would have never had my kid in there with Roy. I mean, there's certain fighters, there's certain trainers that I would trust with my fighter or with my kid. It used to be Buddy McGirt. And maybe it still is Buddy McGirt, because I think Buddy McGirt is really good at training. I didn't like Buddy McGirt saying he didn't watch film. That's always very concerning for me. Floyd Mayweather Sr. would be one. I like what Roger Mayweather does. Definitely Derek James would be one that I would be willing to. Goosen would be another one. Although I've never seen Goosen build one up. Sugar Hill. I don't know if Goosen has ever built one up from the bottoms up though. But those are the types of trainers that I would be more than willing to, put my fighter in the ring or put my fighter in his hands or in their hands. I would not be willing to put my fighter in the hands of Roy Jones Jr. because Roy Jones was a special athlete, and that was the reason why he was so effective as a boxer. And when his skills diminished, or not necessarily skills, but when his reflexes diminished, he was not the same fighter. The way that he blocked punches when he didn't have the speed to just simply get out of the way was evident. He started getting caught a lot. You start to see that his defensive skills weren't really all that sharp and great. So he's not the guy that I want teaching my son to box. That's what it is. Yeah.
And another thing on that is, for Michael Williams specifically, Roy is only in camp with him like 2 to 3 weeks leading up to a fight. This is directly from Michael Sr. You can't, and he says he trains his son to get ready, endurance, stamina, etc. Working out, staying consistent. But then Roy comes in and does the technical work, which is weird to me, because if you're going to bring Roy Jones in for anything, it's not technical work.
No,
because he wasn't a technical fighter. Like,
correct.
You could bring in Derek James for technical work. You know who's good at technical work? Robert Garcia actually is really good at technical work.
Robert Garcia would be another one. Yeah,
I would trust my fighter with Robert Garcia for sure. But I would also expect to have a full. If I got, I'm 2 months out from the fight date, I'm bringing my fighter in 2 months out. So
I want to address something that Jason Williams said in the comment section, because, this is how narratives get painted. He said, I was here. No, sorry, wrong one. He says, doesn't Derek James say he doesn't watch film? Derrick James says that he doesn't necessarily watch fights like that. But in the event that his fighter is actually fighting somebody, he watches film. He's literally said that. So, yes, he doesn't just watch boxing. It may be the first time he's seen a fighter fight. But definitely in the event that one of his fighters are going to get in the ring with him, he is watching film on those fighters. Am I misstating that, T?
No, that's facts. I was gonna say the same thing. I was just waiting for you to reply to what I was saying because I saw that comment as well. And I agree, Derrick James. He even said it recently where he was talking about he hadn't seen Franklin fight, but he's gonna watch him now. In his most
Right.
recent interview, he addressed that very specifically that I don't watch boxing because I'm in the gym all day. I don't want to watch fights after I've been in the gym all day. But when we get a fight signed, I go to work. And you can see that in the way his clients or his fighters go in the ring. They don't have a plan A. They got a plan A through D because you see those guys adjust and adapt throughout the fight. There's no way you are that prepared for your opponent if you're not watching film. So, I mean,
Exactly.
that's another one of them confirmation bias things.
Yeah, he said Derrick James says he doesn't watch boxing. Jason, there's a difference
Okay.
between watching boxing and analyzing film to prepare for a fight. I'm talking about the fact that Buddy McGirt said that he doesn't watch film in preparation for a fight. That's an issue for me. Because of that, I wouldn't want him to train my son to get into the ring. He may be the one he may have the skills, the requisite skills and ability to train my son to get him in to understand, the correct defensive posture and how to throw a hook and all that other stuff, the jab, appropriate jab, spacing between your feet, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if he's not watching film and he's going in there blind talking about he's going to adjust midway through the fight, no, I don't know. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah, Derrick James doesn't watch boxing. He said he isn't even interested in boxing like that. Well, I mean, it pays his bills, so he's interested enough. I mean, how interested are you in what you do for a living? How many people are actually interested in what they do for a living? Let's start there. A very small amount. Very few people are living their dream. But if you're in the field that pays you well and affords you the opportunity to provide in a way that nothing else could, you're gonna find enough interest to be good at it. And he's not just good at it; he's great at it. Trainer of the year. He's got a unified champion and an undisputed champion, and he probably has what 12 title defenses between the two of them. So he's been in over 12 to 15 championship fights. So what does that tell
Right.
you? He might know a little something about boxing, whether he's interested in it or not. I trust him taking my fighter to the ring every time.
Right. Yep. So T, man, we had an hour and 51 minutes, man. We haven't had another call in. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up because I actually got some people that are visiting from out of town. So I'm gonna go upstairs and connect with them for a little bit and have a little bit of family time. But I appreciate everybody that joined today's call. I know that there's some fights on right now, so it's kind of I don't know. It's in direct competition with the Fury kid and whatever that kid's name is. I always forget his name. Shout out to Sean Clark, man. I appreciate you, man, for the $5 earlier. Jay Reddy, the League of Legacy, were in the building. They're members, so we appreciate you guys and your support. Tunnel Vision, I saw you in the chat today. Always Jason Williams and Brenda McDonough. You guys support the channel as well, so we always are thankful to see you guys in the chat section. Don Jenkins, Brian S. I think I saw Dewberry in here for a while. I didn't see him post after early on, but Molly Mall, Sid Jappy, all you guys, man, very appreciative. Plaintiff 619, appreciate you guys for showing up and supporting the channel. So very appreciative of you guys. T, anything else you want to add? You want to plug your show and your channel quickly before we wrap up?
Yeah, super quick, guys. So the Mike Check podcast is actually all sports. We do a lot of boxing content right now because it's very active. We've got football and basketball content and some of the other things, bare knuckle boxing. That being said, I'm going to drop a link in the comments here. Please take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're very active in the chat and comments as well. We go live Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time. So feel free to come and have a conversation. We have an open panel, so jump on in. But other than that, man, thank you all for being such great people in the chat, keeping the conversation going. The support is greatly appreciated.
Harold Trill said, Greg said EJ is at his house. I wish he was, man. But anyway, man, yeah. So every Sunday, guys, you guys know that we're here every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, we are very appreciative of everybody that's been supporting the channel. We're almost up to 5,000 subs. Imagine that 5 months ago, we were below 500 subs, and now we're almost up to 5,000 subs. So I'm so appreciative of everybody that supports the channel and everybody that comes into the comment section. Can't thank you guys enough. Don't forget, if you haven't had the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button before this ends. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody in the chat. And we'll be talking to you guys next week. And be on the lookout for content this week. Jason and I will be dropping very soon. Appreciate you guys. Peace.